This is, of course, Dale Calabert. He's a professor of history in Solomon Community College. We spent many years together as faculty colleagues in that department. And in the back, raise your hand, is Carol Zadnick. And he brought Carol along. She is the DE technician that we recently hired because shifting the campus provided us with an opportunity at Solano to have a full complement of resources, human resources, to help students and faculty. So Carol's job is to help us transition and migrate our courses over and provide training and access for students. And students call her and email her for help, I can't find this, and she finds it. So it's been a real upgrade for Solano students to be able to have that kind of on-the-ground help, and alleviates the traffic through Kathy Gillis' office and mine and everybody else's. So Dale has built a course that I tell everyone is better online than anything I ever taught face-to-face, so that's kind of telling. And I have to compliment him and the team of faculty from the Academic Senate and the Distance Education Committee that guided the planning and the implementation of Canvas. This is really a faculty-driven process, and it had to be, and it was. My role at that time was the Vice President of Academic Affairs, and so I helped provide the administrative support, and we collaborated on the budgets and how to make all of those transitional pieces occur from not just the technical aspect, but also the infrastructure aspect and interfacing with IT, et cetera. So with that, Dale, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I'm really flexible for this hour as to what you'd like to do and talk about. So I could start by just showing you a little bit of Canvas. How many of you have actually seen Canvas and done any work in Canvas or played around with it?
Please.
So I assume you're transitioning to Canvas for the new Online Education Initiative program from the Chancellor's Office. Is that?
We're exploring the idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we just, because we were already in Canvas, we immediately saved $150,000 at Solano, because that's what we were paying for Canvas. That was our personal contract, and the Chancellor's Office is not paying for that. So we benefited by the fact that we had already transitioned to Canvas before OEI came, and we had done that because we were looking for cost savings anyway. So we did a complete search process. We looked at 6 or 7 different LMS platforms, Blackboard, Moodle, all of them. It was, at the end, no contest. Canvas was just hands down the winner. It was actually a fairly easy choice. And I've heard that when the Chancellor's Office did the same thing, they came up with the same result. It was practically unanimous for Canvas. So.
At the conference, they said it was like 90-some%.
Okay, so if we're going to make the jump, we got to jump now or forever hold our peace or pay for it.
No, I don't know if they're that restrictive about it, so.
No, the Chancellor's Office points out this is all entirely voluntary. You can do whatever you want. You can go to Canvas or not go to Canvas. The big thing is, if you go to Canvas, they pick up the tab. They pay for your LMS.
For just 2 years.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Dale, it's just for 2 years though, isn't it?
No, it's
for
indefinite.
permanent?
It's ongoing.
Oh,
Oh.
They are funded through the legislature for 4 years,
Uh-huh.
and they fully expect to be refunded after that. This is something the legislature is committed to, the governor is committed to, so it's going to happen.
Well, but I just heard though was that it would be funded for 2 years and then the colleges would be asked for a small portion of matching funding or something.
Okay, that's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah,
That's
I heard that
just
there was
something-
some kind of contribution that they were going to ask districts to make.
So it would still be a savings, but.
Yeah, I'm
right.
sure it will be. Yeah.
But I also think there's strong pedagogical reasons for going to Canvas. It's simply the best program out there.
Yeah.
And as you know, I understand you recently had a visit from the Accreditation Commission. They are looking for an interactive online experience. They're looking for a human presence. They're looking for the instructors to be actively involved, communicating with your students. Canvas makes that all so easy to do and so fun to do. And so it's built on a multimedia platform. And so it's the best possible tool that you could have.
Do you have your front page going?
It is on, yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. So what makes it? Are you going to show us what makes it that good?
So why don't I just show you a little bit about what Canvas looks like, and then maybe we could do that for about half the time, and then we could talk about how we did the transition.
Could we do it from the login so we can see it from the start?
Sure.
Thank you.
Let's see if that works. So you're going to go to Canvas, and this eventually will integrate with your banner.
We don't have
Or what do you use?
Colleen.
Data to a colleague.
So whatever you have, your student information system will integrate with your LMS so that there's what we call a single sign-on. Students will sign on to your system and then get into your, you'll get, this is a login page, and we use, with our students, we use the same password and username we use for the regular college, so there's no confusion there. You have, this is sort of your main dashboard, and you have where you can get your announcements and things. And then you have courses are up here. So we're going to look at this course right here. These are all of my courses that I've taught just in the last couple of years there. And then this is the sort of the main course homepage. So your students would log in and come to this where you have the main course homepage. So just to get you broadly oriented, there's two navigational structures within this. There is the global navigational, which is the blue bar, and that navigates all your courses. So what's great about Canvas, and I'm not sure how Blackboard works, we were in e-college, is that you could see flows of information from all your courses. If you're teaching multiple courses, or if your students are taking multiple courses, they see all the assignments, all the due dates from all of their courses. They're all listed in this global calendar. And then your inbox, that's how you would communicate with your students. That's your email program within Canvas. So that's the inbox. The little blue with a 1 on it, that means there's a message in there that I haven't looked at yet. So
It's
you
similar
get these
to Blackboard.
flags all the time that tells you there's things to do. And then everything below the blue bar is this course. And so this navigation structure here is how you would move through this particular course. So you see how that works? So this is the course navigation, and this is global navigation.
So how do the students get this? Are they transitioned over from the registrar's office?
Well, you'll transition your program to the courses that you offer currently on Blackboard. You will transition or move all of that course content into Canvas.
But right now, we have somebody from IT physically upload our students that are registered.
Yeah.
Or web advisor to Blackboard. It's not an automatic process.
Right, so that's what you would work out with your IT department and your student information system. You would be, I would assume, automating the student uploads, the enrollment uploads, and your adds and your drops that are processed through your system automatically then add and drop in the LMS. So that you typically is integrated, and that's Carol's role as the administrative assistant. And this is something that we talked about when we negotiated with Canvas. Part of that negotiation process is Canvas says, okay, what's your staff going to look like on your end? What's your staffing profile? Who's going to manage your LMS? They want to know that because that person would be doing your enrollments and that technical stuff. Yeah.
Just so you know, we don't have a portal system yet, but I know, right? It's the goal, right?
When you guys operate, are you in a single sign-on format, or is it separate?
We're not in a single sign-on yet, so there is a separate login, but it is the same username and password, so the students don't get confused. And they can actually link into the sign-on through our campus website.
And are you guys Banner?
We are Banner, yeah.
So this is not unlike Blackboard, just so you know. It's similar in
Right.
the types of things you can access, even though it might be oriented a little bit differently.
Right.
But I have a question. So in Blackboard, everything operates on Java and pop-up contextual menus.
Right,
So there's no right-clicking or double-clicking. So that's my first question.
yes.
How do you access materials here? Is it the same idea of pop-up windows or what?
They don't do a lot of that. Canvas was basically built on the same interface as social media. So Facebook, that's Google, a lot of Gmail kind of interactivity there. And it was based on that because that's kind of what students are already familiar with. By the way, when our students transitioned to Canvas, they loved it. And they just sort of went right in. There was not huge technical problems with that. So for instance, if you look at the calendar, one of the great things about the calendar is it's a global calendar. So if I turn on some of my courses, all of my courses are on the same calendar.
That's like a Google Calendar.
Yeah, and it's like a Google Calendar, it's drag and drop. So I can actually just change an assignment
And
due
that was
date.
my question.
just
So
like
it's
that.
drag and drop.
So a lot of it is drag and drop. There's a lot of, in most of the editing interface, it's drag and drop. And that was so refreshing when we moved into Canvas and found it was that easy to do. So you've got global things there, and then I'll just briefly show you around the course. And what I think we do a 4-hour training on Canvas. We can't do that today, but I think what I'd like to show you is ways in which Canvas makes it really easy for you to interact with your students. Because that's what accreditation is going to want to see. That's what we really need to push, regular, effective, instructor-initiated contact, that magic mantra that we hear all the time. They want to see it. And Canvas is sort of all over the place. For instance, in announcements, actually let me move over to this course because this is my online course. In announcements, you would post announcements, things like this, but then at the bottom of every announcements page, students can reply to that announcement. So it's not just you post an announcement and then you're leaving. You post an announcement, they can ask questions about that, they can get clarification, and you're getting the dialogue and the discussion going even in the announcements section. And almost everything is like that. There's typically a reply button at the bottom of the screen. And this looks exactly like what the students see. So you can sort of see that in operation here.
Are those videos embedded?
This is an example of how I embed videos in my course. So these are my lecture videos. So when I lecture in my face-to-face class, I'm recording my screen, I'm recording my voice in Camtasia. And then I upload those to a YouTube channel and then link to them.
So it's linked
So my
to-
online students actually get my in-class lectures simply, and they can play them right inside Canvas. They don't have to go to YouTube, so it's sort of right there. So embedding media using sound files, media files, that is seamless in Canvas
Okay, so
because
you
it's
just
built on that platform.
Use the link, you didn't use embed code,
Embed code.
or you did, okay,
Yeah, these
so-
are embed
So then
codes.
it's like not platform, okay.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, most LMSs will do that, but it's very intuitive here in Canvas.
And at Solano, what was your previous platform?
Pardon?
What was your previous on that platform?
We were in eCollege, which is a proprietary platform linked to Pearson Publishers. So this is where, I'll just take you through some of these. This is your files area, so this is where you would keep documents or handouts that you're using for your students. And they can access this file as well. This is your syllabus page. So these are fairly typical things you'd see in most LMS platforms. This is what Canvas calls modules. This is where you put your units or your chapters or your week, whatever you would do. So you would create a module and then you would add items to this module with these buttons over here. So it's fairly intuitive and fairly easy to learn how to put things in. Have you seen the Canvas intro video? We can do that. Do you think we have sound?
Can you show us what it's like to upload something like, can you hit that plus and let us watch you pretend to put in a new file?
Sure.
I don't want to, have you
Modules?
what you got there, but
So say I wanted to add something to this module. I hit plus, and it's going to ask me what do I want to add. Do we want to put an assignment? Do we want to put a contact page?
okay.
Do we want to add a discussion? And then you're going to name it.
Okay, that's clear enough.
Okay,
You don't have to-
and then you add it,
Oh, okay,
and there it is.
thank you.
Does it add at the bottom?
Yeah, and then it's drag and drop. So if I decide I want to move that, I just move it.
So that was a pop-up contextual menu, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's all the same then. So
Right.
there shouldn't be too much confusion in terms of the way to navigate around the system.
Right, and I think if you're using the most recent version of Blackboard, what all these other LMSs are doing is they're borrowing stuff from Canvas. Often Canvas is the leader in the field, and then Blackboard will say, yeah, let's use that. So that's how Canvas works. Do you think we have sound? Do you want to try this? Here is the 90-second Canvas introduction to themselves. So don't blink, because you might miss something.
This is the video where we're supposed to show you all the cool things Canvas can do. But it's actually more about the cool things you can do, with a little help from Canvas. With fewer clicks and steps, stuff like speed grader and drag and drop calendaring will give you more time in a day. You can do what you have to, in a way you actually want to. The communication between teacher and learner is so critical, and with Canvas, it's on your terms. Students can receive notifications, submit work, and interact with learning materials on the devices they use and in the ways they're used to. And Canvas's open platform lets you provide feedback and other interaction using video, blogs, wikis, or several other ways. You know the learning experience you want to create, and Canvas is the perfect sidekick. Bring the best of the web into your lessons with open integrations, reinvent assessments with richer content, easily tie outcomes to your grading, and then monitor it all with analytics. Teaching or learning is what you do. Helping you make it simple, smart, and transformative is what Canvas does. Give it a try. See what Canvas can do for you.
So that's kind of what we saw when we did our selection process. Canvas is a young company. Seems like the entire staff is under 30. They're based in Utah. And they're really basing it on the kind of social media interface that students are already used to. So it's a dynamic system that allows you to integrate multimedia in different ways. So that's simply an example of a plugin. There's a live conference tool in Canvas. So you can actually do live screencasting conferences with students. You can share your screen. You can go over a document with students. There are collaborations where you can actually collaborate. They're using Google to do collaborations. And what's also striking about Canvas, I'm not sure how the interface with Blackboard is, but whatever you're seeing here from the instructor perspective, student perspective is exactly the same. Anything you can do, they can do. So if they want to start a collaboration in a group, they can just open up a collaboration and start a collaboration. Now, there's some things they can't do. They can't change an assignment. They can't change a grade. Those are by default instructor only. But there's some, the interface is the same, and that's this idea of this community of learners. They can do things that you can do.
I was going to ask, you mentioned you use Camtasia and you upload
Yeah.
Camtasia. Is Canvas, does it have the capacity, or are they talking about having their own sort of tool that allows you to create content like that using something like a Camtasia or something that you can then immediately put online within the whole system instead of
Yeah.
having to have a separate
Right. Yeah.
account with Camtasia or Snagit or one of these other?
Yeah, I mean, Canvas is an open source system. So it's basically built for plugins like Camtasia, so it functions with almost all of those things. But it also has its own internal media and multimedia recording. So you'll find that anytime you want to make an announcement, you could just type an announcement in the text box, which is what you typically do. You can also do a voice announcement. You can use your onboard camera and do a video announcement. And there are these logos right here. You just click on those things and you can do it. And you just, as long as you've got a camera and a microphone on your computer, you can just do something like that. And that's everywhere. So when you go, for instance, to grade, let me just show you SpeedGrader, because that's one of the instructor's favorite aspects of Canvas. This is actually my grade book, so don't pretend you're not looking at these grades. SpeedGrader is, this is the grade book. The grade book is interactive. It's also drag and drop. For instance, these pink areas are indicating that the assignments were submitted late, so you can, at a glance you can see some things. And when you drop down these interactive menus, you can see that with this assignment, you can do different things in your grade book. So it's a very dynamic grade book. It's not a static grade book. For instance, message students who, that's a tremendously powerful tool. Because you can, the day after your assignment's due, if you've got 5 students who didn't submit, you could immediately message them, I haven't received your assignment yet, let me know if I can do anything to help. Try to get it in as soon as you can. And it automatically loads the 5 emails and sends it. You don't have to go look for them and collect their emails, it just sends it to those people automatically. I use that all the time. I almost never get an assignment where I don't use that. And the responses are quite interesting. You know, the dog ate my homework or my grandmother died. But I'll always get 1 or 2 says, I'm sorry I'm a little late. It's coming in tomorrow. Thanks for asking. Thanks for checking in with me. And it's so easy to do by doing that. So they really like that. Feedback from you. SpeedGrader is the way you would grade interface. So this is a Canvas innovation. They kind of invented this. So you actually get, if they're submitting documents on assignment, you get the assignment here, which is a screenshot of the assignment, although it's dynamic. So you can actually comment on this assignment. You can mark it up if you want.
Exactly.
You can create a rubric.
So one borrow the other.
Yeah, you can create a rubric in here. You can put as many comments as you want in those rubric. That rubric automatically totals the grade.
Can they be rubric used for, you have to do the rubric one time, or?
You can do the, I mean, it's the same rubric. You just do the rubric once.
Okay, good.
and then you could plug that rubric into whatever assignment fits that rubric. I've got 3 or 4 that I do for different assignments, but you do the rubric once and then you just select it. So you don't have to keep doing it, but you can put comments in, and then they see these comments when they get their grade back. And then down below, you'll see you can submit a comment. So if you want to make a comment on your paper. But here's what I want to point out. You'll have that little logo. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a little microphone logo and a camera logo. So you can actually give voice comments back. You can give camera comments back. And that's just a click away. And you'll see that all the way through Canvas. It's multimedia friendly, where you can sort of click into those sorts of interactions.
So one thing that came up during accreditation is evidence of contact, and the Blackboard has this, which is you can comment through the gradebook.
Yeah.
But they weren't really looking at our gradebooks to
Right.
see evidence, and so how did you guys address that? Because evidence is in the gradebook.
Well, there's,
not
yeah,
in the gradebook.
evidence of instructor interaction. I mean, you've got your inbox, which is your email trails. You have these comments, which can be viewed through the gradebook that you're giving. Again, when you make a discussion, or when you're going, if you're making an announcement, they can respond to the announcement, you can respond back to them. Announcements are a way of initiating contact. And that's all traceable. I mean, that's all embedded in the
Let me
course
just
shell.
clarify what they actually said, because we were in there. What they said was, it's not about the end product.
It's not the end product.
Where you
They don't
give them-
consider grading the same thing as the teaching that leads up to the assessment called grading.
Right.
So what they're looking for is regular effective contact that prepares the students to deliver the graded material, and the grade is that you're commenting on the outcome. What they're
Right.
looking for is
Yeah.
evidence of contact that led to that prepared the students to deliver that particular assignment to you.
And for example, they looked at a discussion board
Yes.
where it asked a question, and the instructor never made any comment regarding that question, or
Right.
saying, reply to others, and given the class enrollment, which was something like 50, there were like 9 comments. So that doesn't look good.
That doesn't look good.
Yeah, but if you're like, well, this is a separate conversation. Actually, I guess
Right.
not. But like, you give credit for participation, and so you comment through the gradebook.
Right. Yeah.
And so, although it's looked at as grading, it's like being in a classroom and giving participation points
Right.
when people talk.
But if you're
Right.
uploading audios, you're doing discussion boards, and they're dynamic, you have videos, you'll be fine. That's what I understand.
That's
And-
kind of
and-
what they're looking for, and that's what Canvas makes so easy to do.
Right.
For instance, they have a live chat window, which is just clicking into a live chat. It's not a plugin. This is a Canvas live chat. It's integrated in the system. Where you can go live with your students, and you can have a text thing going back and forth. So you're initiating that contact through announcements, through your discussions, posting videos, launching a live chat, doing a live conference. These are all the kinds of instructor-initiated things that they want to see.
So there's analytics to see how often, or?
Yes, yeah, it's a very powerful analytics tool. Let me just show you settings. The last item in your navigation bar is called settings. And this is sort of your back door control room. This is where you sort of control the mechanisms of your course. So for instance, under navigation, here's where you can actually turn this, you could change this. You could decide, I want this up here, and I want this down here. And this will change the navigation bars over here. You're not going to use some of these things. You can just drop them down here, and the students don't see them. So they don't have all of this up here. And then here you've got course stats, and then in the gradebook or through the grading, there's course analytics. And it's a powerful analytic program where it's very graphic, and you can see who's late, who hasn't turned things in, who's consistently above average or below average. And you can pull up a whole class. You can pull up individual students and see those analytics. So it's quite powerful. Linking your SLOs to the rubrics. I mean, I'm sure accreditation wants to see SLO assessments linked to assignments. I've heard all this before.
I've
We
heard
went
that
through this
that's
2 years
true.
ago.
Aggregating.
You can actually embed the SLO in your rubric, and that generates data specifically for those SLOs. So there's a lot of powerful tools that you can use in Canvas.
You're pulling all this video from the internet and stuff. What about accessibility features, capturing those things of that nature?
Well, that's the big job we're working on now, is getting captions into these videos. You can use YouTube as a captioning tool. Camtasia has its own captioning tool. We've actually hooked up with a granting institution that's got grants to caption videos. We send them our videos, they caption them, they send them back to us. And they're funded by an outside grant. So that doesn't cost us anything. So there's several different tools, but it's a big job to caption videos.
So there isn't anything that solves that problem in Canvas.
Well, Canvas has its own captioning tool. And like a lot of tools, it gets you close, but you still have to kind of tweak it a little bit because it doesn't understand some things. But they're all like that. The YouTube captioning tool is the same way.
So on that subject, has your college then put out something from the administration saying, look, because we have workshops from the High Tech Center telling us, you just assume that you have to make this accessible regardless of whether you know whether or not you need someone, you have someone in a class like that. Are you getting that as sort of an overall message for these courses when you build them? Yeah, the overall message is you just need to do this. And what's striking about the OAA, the Online Education Initiative from the Chancellor's Office, when they've been out talking to faculty all the time, what clearly came back to them is the accessibility issue is the big stress-producing issue, because we know we have to do it, you can get sued over this, and yet nobody quite knows what to do. And so they are putting a lot of emphasis into accessibility. They're creating workshops for accessibility. How do you do it? What do you do with videos? What do you do with audio? How do you design a course that's accessible to a blind student or to a deaf student? So look to OEI to roll out some of these resources because they recognized right off the bat this is a huge issue that everybody's going to need to move on.
What about providing similar services to online students as our students that are on campus?
Yes, that's something we really struggle to do. And again, OEI is like coming to the rescue. They now are developing student tutoring modules that are going to be plugins. They're developing student support services that links you to counseling. There's going to be an online counseling. There's going to be an online tutoring component into Canvas. They're working with anti-plagiarism software programs. There'll be that plug-in. So they are developing this, which is the great thing about getting into OEI and getting into Canvas, because they're going to provide you with those resources.
And the collaborations is really useful too, because you can do supplemental instruction and group tutoring using the collaborations.
Right, so there's lots of tools. There's conferences, collaborations, chat, lots of ways in which you can create instructor-initiated contact and create interactive stuff with your students, or the students can form their own groups and start their own collaborations.
What other choices are on that program?
Right now, that's the only one.
Oh.
There was another one that they used to have. They've taken it out.
Can you show us the conferences?
Yeah, Conferences is a live conference tool. It's a big blue button, which is the plugin they're using. I've heard that when OEI rolls things out, they may actually plug in CCC Confer, which is the conferencing tool that the Chancellor's Office uses.
Most likely.
And they may just plug that in. They're very similar. And I'm not sure if we can actually launch a conference. This is what will totally tie up your internet. So you just, there's Big Blue Button, which is the one we do. You would give it a name. You would describe the conference. And then you would either invite everybody, or you could actually choose to conference with just some of your students, and you would just check the names of the people you want to conference with. So that's a great tool. What accreditation would love to see is somebody after an assignment. Okay, everybody got a D and a lower. We're going to do a conference on Tuesday, and I'm going to select your names, and I'm going to invite you to a live conference, and we're going to do a study session. That's a perfect example of instructor-initiated contact.
Does this get archived?
And it's archived. The default version you have, which is the freebie version, is archived for 2 weeks. But you can upgrade to a paid version of Big Blue Button, and it's archived longer. Or it would be archived within CCC Confer if they do that.
So when you're doing a conference, they don't know who else is in there, isn't there?
Typically they do. There'll be a list of other students.
So we're all the D students here. Is that?
Yeah, you don't have to call it that, but you could just say, I'd like to work with you closely on this
It's the help group,
assignment.
it's not the D group.
Yeah.
And
And they can, the students can activate their microphones and activate their cameras. So you can see them, they can see you, although typically students are very shy about the camera. They'll go their microphone, but they won't necessarily put themselves on screen. Or they can type in a chat window, so there's I'd have to set this up, but there's a chat window, there's your main screen. You could put the assignment up on your screen, so you're sharing your screen. You can flip it around and they can share their screen with you in a live conference. So if you work on an assignment that didn't go so well, you can actually go over this assignment as if that student was sitting in your office during office hours. So a conferencing tool is a really powerful tool to have.
In the paid version, is chat log permanent for the course?
Pardon?
In the paid version, is the chat log permanent for the course?
And is it archived? Yes. Yes.
Where do you access personal information? Like
Your own or your students?
both? Is there, 'cause in
So
Blackboard, there's a
the
personal
people item on the navigation tool is where your roster is going to be, where information on your students are. You can also track inactivity. So if students haven't been around for a while, you can actually sort for that. And anybody who hasn't checked in for 5 days, you can send an email. And it tells you how much activity they have.
That's where you make groups too, it looks like,
And this is where you would make groups.
for any assignment?
Right. So,
Okay.
well, you can do whatever you want. So the group aspect of this is great in Canvas. And I use this when they do their main term paper project. So I put them in topic groups after they've chosen a topic. And that's where I really work with my students. So I'm in discussion boards where they're saying what I would want to do. I'm saying, go look at this document, go look at this book. And what's great about groups is when you create a group, you're actually giving them a whole Canvas website. They just create a website inside the website. And they've got their own discussions, their own collaborations, their own chat windows, their own files. They can share files with each other. It's like this whole independent website just for that group. And it's a great way to do groups. So putting students in groups. The thing I'm also hearing from accreditation and the Chancellor's Office, they're no longer satisfied with instructor-student contact. They want to see student-student contact. They want to see a learning community in our online courses. They want students working with each other, talking to each other, not just talking to you on these one-on-one conversations. So, and again, Canvas makes it really easy to do that with groups. And all your personal information, and you can email people from here as well.
So if you click on their names.
We'll just dispense with FERPA for just a moment. So here, clicking on a name, any messages they've sent to you is all on the same page. So you can have a whole conversation going with a student. All the posts they've made to the assignments and things like that, you can. There's the analytics. So that's where you would look at the analytics for one student. And these are the analytics. This is where they've had messages. This is what they've scored relative to the rest of the class. These are where they've accessed pages. So you can do that for your whole class. You can do that for each individual student. So the analytics part of it is really nicely done. It's very powerful.
Are you tracking your SLO student?
Yes. So what you do is what I've done is I have SLOs. And then when I create the rubrics for my assignments, one of the lines on the rubric is SLO. So I'll say SLO1 or SLO2. And then in the rubric, if they get a certain score threshold, then the SLO gets checked. And if they don't make it to a certain score, then the SLO is unchecked. And that creates a whole lot of data because then I can go into the SLOs and say, okay, here's the percentage of your students who qualify for that SLO, met expectations for that SLO. Here's the percentage that didn't make expectations for the SLO. And then you can track it over time throughout the course. So it's the kind of thing that it takes a little bit of work to set that up, SLOs, linking them into the rubrics. But once you've done that, it just generates the data without you doing anything else. And it's a great, powerful tool. Yeah.
2 questions. One, do you guys use Canvas for your face-to-face classes too?
Yes.
And then I do want to hear about the transitioning.
Yes.
So in my experience, when I worked at Santa Rosa, they were on Moodle, and they were able to do like a system export and export every course and import it into Canvas. And I mean, my courses were identical when they appeared in Canvas. And I was sort of wondering if that was your experience with
No.
LMS. It wasn't.
Because eCollege refused to do that.
Oh,
It was
okay.
a bit of a scuffle.
So you have to get the permission.
Your LMS Blackboard is somewhat obligated in the industry to provide you with what is called a cartridge, which will bulk download the content from your Blackboard course and load it into and map it to the Canvas system with a little tweaking from Canvas staff, and it appears. Our advice that we got and that we give to you is don't do that.
Okay.
This is a golden opportunity for you to refresh your courses. You're going to get faculty who are going to whine and complain, but actually redoing your course can be a very enlightening experience. If you've been doing something for 10 years, maybe you want to take another look at that lecture and that assignment. So we actually, since we couldn't do it anyway, we were forced to do it this way. We had the faculty, and we helped them technically to copy and download. We've always advised our faculty, whatever you upload to Blackboard, make sure you have a copy of it. Of course, almost nobody does that. But if you do, and you've got organized folders, you've got your course. And then the process of manually copying that down to your desktop and then going over to Canvas and rebuilding the course in Canvas, that's going to be a better course. It's going to be a fresher course. All of your new ideas are going to be in that course. If you just port it over,
Force them to learn the new LMS too.
it's a great way to learn the system,
Right.
and it's a great way to refresh your course. So I would certainly encourage your faculty to do that. But as far as I know, it is possible to port over from Blackboard. And that's easy to see how you do that. You would just go to Settings.
So the OEI committee has said that they're working on this transition in courses because many colleges want to have the courses port over. They don't want to have to redo them.
Right.
But
So
what
you
Joe was
would
explaining
import.
too is that it
here's your
isn't as
Blackboard.
though I had to go in and completely rebuild my course. It's like Carol just captured my course, flipped it over into Blackboard, and I lost a couple things, but the majority of everything I needed was right there. And they
Right.
gave me the opportunity to go through and go, do I really need that lecture, or do I really want that picture, or whatever.
I usually advise against whole course copying, especially with Blackboard. But
I have a question.
Mhm.
If you're using a different program, like an online course management, like My Math Lab,
Uh-huh.
so you can just link them over to My Math Lab to do just their homework and then do everything else on here.
Right, and so Canvas integrates with all of those programs, I assume just like Blackboard does. So you can port them out through Canvas, and quite often you can integrate your gradebook with your publisher gradebook, and sometimes you port it automatically back into the Canvas gradebook. So there's lots of things you can do that way. Yeah. So let's just talk about transition. This is something we did in 2012. 2013, it was a 2-year transition, which sounds like a long time, but faculty were really feeling pushed to do that because we were doing a manual transfer of the courses. And so we set out the entire timeline. This is the timeline that I developed for the transition. What is the administration going to do? What's the DE coordinator going to do? What's IT going to do? And it's best to do a collective effort here. My advice is to make sure that you drive this transition through your academic senate. This is a curricular program, that's faculty purview. The DE committee at Solano is a subcommittee of the academic senate. Because you're probably going to need to deal with a requirement faculty training. We actually initiated a course shell review where we looked at the courses as they were being built to see if they would meet accreditation standards. And that's not something that comes from the administration really well. That needs to come from your colleagues. And so we found that doing this through the academic senate was the best way to sort of get faculty buy-in for those questions. So that's the timeline that we did. And then what we did relative to that is that we recognized we needed 2 major things in our program that we didn't have before. That was clearly being advised by the Accreditation Commission, because when we got our visit, they asked us questions like, please document your process for faculty training to prepare them to teach online. Well, it's hard to document something that doesn't exist, because we had no faculty training. And so we initiated a faculty training. And of course, you would get faculty saying, well, wait a minute, I've been teaching online for 10 years. I don't need to be trained. But you're going to a new LMS. It's a perfect opportunity to do this. So for veteran faculty, the training was more, here's how to use Canvas. For new faculty, it was how to teach online in Canvas. So it was a slightly different emphasis. So we created a training program that was 4 steps. And we sort of pitched it right down the middle. When we researched other colleges, we found there were people who didn't do anything. We found people, you have to take an entire semester course on teaching online for 3 credits before you get to develop a course. We kind of put something kind of in between. So 4 workshops, and we give these on our FlexCal days. Or they could do the workshop completely online. And so you would go through those 4 workshops, basically from getting started. And this is where we really talk about interactive learning. So all those tools about how do you do a collaboration, how do you do a conference. The 4th workshop is entirely ADA accessibility issues for that. And during the process of this workshop, we give them an empty shell, a development shell. And this is where they would actually build their course. So if they're starting from scratch, they would actually build the course through the training process. Or if they're bringing over a Blackboard course, they'd load that content into the shell, and then they'd work on creating that Canvas course as they go through these trainings. So that was the first major point is you're not wasting time over here getting trained, you're building your course as you go through the training.
Did Canvas provide you sort of the template for this, or did you guys all get together and say, well, this is what we're going to call our first workshop, this is what we're going to call the second?
We created this,
You guys.
although you'll find Canvas has a terrific support network. They've got training modules, they've got a whole YouTube channel with 200 videos. Any question you could possibly think of, Canvas has made a video about it, and it's on YouTube.
And were those online modules created in Canvas?
Yes. So they're actually learning how to take the course. So they're going through Canvas as a student, and then they're learning to use Canvas as an instructor, because we wanted to give them the student view. So when we, for instance, wanted to get feedback, are you understanding what you're training here, we would create a quiz so that the faculty could get used to the experience of this is what it's like for a student to take a quiz on Canvas. And so we have quizzes embedded into these courses here. And then, so you're building a development shell. A development shell means there's no students in the shell, it's not a teaching shell, you're building the course. And then the most difficult part was the course shell review. This is the most difficult part. Because we had to face the fact that if accreditation is asking, please document instructor-initiated contact, we couldn't go into a meeting with accreditation saying, yes, we think there's contact in there, but we don't really know because we've never seen the course. We're going to have to open these things up and look at them. And so we went to the Academic Senate and said, we need to do this. And so the way we did it is this is entirely faculty-driven. The administration is not involved in the course shell reviews at all. You pick 2 reviewers for your shell, you build out your shell, we create a checklist, here's what you need to have in your shell, contacts, syllabus, SLOs, we have a list. The faculty reviewers go through the shell, check off the items, give suggestions, and then we send that to the DE committee. So the DE committee is the committee that actually goes through the shells and approves them or doesn't approve them and says, here's what's still missing, here's what we need to see before we can give you an approval. And so it's entirely within the realm of the faculty to do that. It was difficult, it was tough, there was a lot of resistance, there were people who just didn't want people to see their shell. They're no longer teaching online with us, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they just weren't cut out for that. However, we got a lot of comments back from faculty saying, you know, that was hard, but I got a better course out of that. And I got a whole lot of ideas from my colleagues who said, why don't you do your discussion this way? And I hadn't thought about that before. So it turned out to be a creative process, but it is going to be difficult if you've never done anything like that before. It's going to be difficult to get people used to it. Yeah.
So, do you have something in writing that says what the process would be for somebody to request being added to a course, either as a guest or as an observer?
Yeah, so we would...
a dean who is all of a sudden part of my online course, it's a hybrid course, and then other faculty members or director of a program.
Right.
Or assistant director who also have asked to be part of a course. And I get that they can walk into any course, but at least you see them walking in the door.
Yeah.
And can acknowledge that they're there, but to
Right.
then find out, oh, I've got an additional student on my grade book, or now they're part of my
Well, that again is why you need to work through your academic senate to set some guidelines and policies. We set the guideline and policy that we don't add administrators to a course without first checking with the instructor. That's just the policy that we set. We set the policy that course shows you would be faculty only. So we don't put deans in for that. When the faculty does an evaluation with their dean, If it's an online faculty and the dean wants to evaluate the course, then the dean would come in. And that we had negotiated the policy through the faculty association. The dean is put in, the dean does the review, the dean is removed. And all of that was clearly set out as to how we do this.
So, I'm sorry, we're all peppering you with questions.
That's fine, that's why I'm here.
I've got to leave right at 4.
Yeah.
Two of the big things that I have issues with that instructors constantly come to me for are testing and the grade book. So I want to know about both. How hard is it to create tests in Blackboard? We have no end of settings. There's almost too many things, too many choices
Right.
in Blackboard. And then the grade book, people have a really hard time manipulating it, you know, looking at columns, having the columns calculated. I mean, this is it's a problem all across our
Yeah.
campus.
Well, I would say in both of those areas, Canvas makes it so intuitive and easy. So you can do just about anything in an assignment. They could submit just about anything. They could submit video, they could submit audio, quizzes. I mean, all of those options that you would typically have. There's whole areas of this that basically all the LMS programs are the same. And so you have all of those options. I'm sure that Blackboard does. The gradebook, as I pointed out, is incredibly intuitive and dynamic. And so you can get a lot out of the gradebook. The gradebook is a real creative tool. It's not just a place to put points. It's a real creative tool. So I think you're going to like the gradebook. Yeah. And it's, you know, you can move those columns around. You can set the gradebook up however you wish to. Yeah.
Is the distance ed committee at Solano large? Because I'm imagining as one of 5 people on our distance ed committee,
Right.
looking at every course that needs to be reviewed. Is it there's sort of like a representative from each division?
Right, so we set up the DE committee. We had to upgrade the DE committee as part of our process. It was very informal before. As a subcommittee of the Senate, there are elected members representing each of the divisions of the schools, or 2. We have 2 for each school. And so they often will sort of coordinate the show reviews for their area, but we all look at things together. So there's about 10 people on our committee because we have 5 schools. And we're doing that when we do course show reviews. Everybody sort of takes 2 or 3 so that everybody gets to spread out the work that you're doing.
Are you part of the curriculum committee?
Well, curriculum is also a subcommittee of the Senate. So we're parallel to the curriculum.
But you don't have a direct
Link
Link.
for reviewing?
You do notify the curriculum committee of those things that have been approved by the DE committee.
Right.
So there is a notification, it goes on the curriculum committee agenda. And then also at the same time, the committee notifies the vice presidents and the deans that these are the people that have been certified in terms of their shell and have gone through the appropriate training.
Right.
And without that, the deans and vice president will not see them in the schedule unless they've gone through this.
So these documents I've given to Diane so she can share with you. But these are the official academic Senate documents. This is the document that created the training program. And so it explains how you are trained, how you form those workshops, how you take the workshops. And then this is the document that describes the course show review process. So this was officially approved by the academic Senate, how it's going to work, what the process is for doing it. All of that's clearly spelled out in this document. So everybody sort of had the same rules for those documents. And then we do interface with the curriculum committee, and we give this list to the administration, to the deans. So as the DE committee approves each course, they're listed, and then it tells them that they have completed their training and they've completed their course show review. So this is refreshed every semester when we approve the new batches of courses, and it's sent to the deans. And we have an agreement with the deans that if you're not on this list, your course is not put into the schedule. So that is what we needed to do to satisfy Accreditation Commission, which says, please tell us how you are ensuring that fully trained faculty are providing courses with all of the requisite services in your schedule. This is what we give them to show them that they're doing it.
So it's not just the instructor gets a one-time course show review, but every time they teach a new course online, it gets reviewed.
If it is a new course that they've not done before, it needs to go through the review process, right? Once it's gone through the review process, then it's done.
So this is a parallel process then to go into the curriculum to approve a course outline record.
Right, so if there is a course that we want to offer online that's never been taught online before, that has to go to our curriculum committee as a course modification proposal. So that's a separate process.
Okay.
And then it comes to us as the DE committee.
Got it.
If it's already been taught, if you've got courses that have already been in Blackboard,
No,
then
I'm
it would
talking
know,
about the new
it would
course
know
that's
go
never
to your,
been
yeah,
taught.
so it would be for new courses, you would go to your curriculum committee as well.
And the curriculum committee also completely upgraded all of its internal documentation so
Yeah.
that they could basically match what had been done here in terms of the faculty member documenting for the curriculum committee exactly how regular effective contact
Right.
was gonna happen. We used to just have a little checkbox, do you email? Sure. Do you have a
Right.
discussion? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was much more detailed and comprehensive so that the curriculum committee had a record of that regular effective contact that you see reflected in the course itself that the DE committee looked at.
Thank you.
So if you have a course in English, like we are in, and it's called English 120, and the course gets approved, do you find in your college that everyone uses the same shell layout, or are they all different?
No, well, we had to set that policy through academic senate as well. So the course shell reviews are if instructor Adams teaches English 120, that course shell is approved. If instructor Bernard wants to teach 120, they go through the same process and have that shell approved. Now, whether the instructors are selling content with each other, that's entirely up to them. And we developed a policy that if you want to use content from another instructor's course, I as a DE committee simply needs to have a written statement from the instructor that that's okay, and then you can share content as much as you want. Even if they're identical, just to make sure everybody doesn't get confused, they both go the review process.
Did you have any sort of problem with classes not being offered because you didn't have documentation that someone had the shell reviewed before the semester?
Well, we had to move this through pretty quickly. We did most of that initial list in about 1 year, about 2 semesters. And we did it as part of a transition. So while we were building this list, building Canvas courses and approving them, they were still teaching in e-college, okay? Because they didn't have the review process for e-college. So you would continue to teach in Blackboard until you got the course developed and reviewed, and then you'd switch it over to Canvas. So now that might be that you're going to run both LMS platforms simultaneously. But since Chancellor's Office is picking up the tab, that's actually relatively easy to do because you don't have to pay for 2 platforms. And so you'll probably want at least a year where you've got both platforms simultaneously, and then you're just moving over that way. I can't believe I talked about transition in 20 minutes because this was a 3-year process that we did. And everything I've just shared with you took weeks and months of discussion and debate and objection and more debate and clarification before we ever got to a Senate vote. The votes were unanimous, but it took 6 months to get to that vote. So it depends upon how your Senate works, how your DEQ works, how collegial you are, as to whether that's going to be hard or easy to do. But get started because it's a lot of work. You want to make sure everybody's aware. You don't want to just announce something. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to be reviewed. You want to get faculty in on the ground floor talking about this, expressing concerns. You address those concerns so that everybody's kind of moving forward. That takes a lot of work. Yeah.
Did you have trouble with people that just adapt all the materials from a particular book, all the resources, and don't do anything but import the resources?
Right, and we basically developed a policy which makes that impossible to do. The policy was simple. Anything we need to demonstrate to accreditation in terms of instructor-initiated contact, comments on grades, must be visible in the Canvas shell. It cannot be at some publisher's shell because we don't have access to that shell, therefore we cannot document it. It has to be visible in the Canvas shell. So we made the policy so that it's impossible for an instructor to teach their entire course through a publisher's website. It's perfectly okay to integrate sections of that publisher's website or link grade books. That's fine. There's actually a lot of really creative stuff in those publisher websites. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a tipping point where the whole course is over there and you're just sort of auto-feeding people and you're not really involved in your course. If you have the requirements that you have to have these instructor contact points, an instructor can't do that.
How'd that
So
go over
that's how
for
we do it.
business in Appley over there?
Pardon?
How'd that go over for your business to
It was a struggle. It was a challenge. Yeah.
I mean, one thing that those systems, you know, can help with is ADA compliance, though, right? You know, they've got videos there. They are
They tend to be, right, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with linking over to the McGraw-Hill video program. That's perfectly fine, there's great stuff there, you know? But you teach the course, McGraw-Hill doesn't teach your course.
Does Canvas limit how many shells an instructor can have?
No.
Okay.
When we were in Canvas before, it was a site license, it was based on FTES, and once you agree to that, it's however many shells you want. We're actually moving towards a system where we're going to create a shell automatically for every class.
At the system level, it sounds like you have, is there a buy-in that each institution has to do to get onto the system? A cost and licensing initial buy-in, or is the system provided and all institutions can migrate onto it if they want within the California community?
I mean the Canvas platform? Well, the Canvas platform has been adopted by the Chancellor's Office, so that becomes the default LMS. If you want to offer your online courses in Canvas, you would move your courses into Canvas. But you control it's still your own local instance of Canvas. You can do whatever you want with how you're going to arrange that within your Canvas, your branding, your logo, and everything else.
But the core system is hosted centrally, we don't have to maintain servers, we don't have to do all the data
No,
backup.
that's all hosted by Canvas. Yeah.
So it sounds like your initial systems integration, interaction with the administrative system side is about who's going to be responsible from the faculty side, because it sounds like everything is driven through Academic Senate.
Right.
Which is great, so you guys are, the Academic Senate is designing and really guiding the whole flow of this online education presence.
Right.
And from the administrative system side, it's about the authentication, the integration for the enrollment.
Right.
And then once the integration for the enrollment is taken care of, in that same process, there's also the automated extract of grades, or is that still a manual gradebook process?
It's a manual gradebook process. We may do automatic extract of grades. We haven't gone there yet. So each instructor has to manually enter their grades into the system from the Canvas gradebook. But everything else is automated. Enrollments and drops, authentication, sign-in. That's all integrated.
Do you use WebAdvisor for grading? What do you guys use for inputting grades?
Banner. It's into the Banner system.
And Canvas doesn't talk to it?
No.
Would ours interface with?
No, because it's a core system. They have an integration. It sounds like what I'm hearing is that there's an integration to your ERP system, so the enrollment, disenrollment, all that piece is happening.
Yes.
But the grading component is still kept separate. So like the faculty do the grading in Canvas, and then there's a manual process of
entering the grades into Banner.
Gradebook,
Right.
or whatever.
So your system might make that integration possible, and you might just go right in and do it. We had technical barriers to doing that, and so we have not done that yet.
No, it wouldn't, because he's talking about it's a data integration to your ERP database.
You made
Yeah.
a comment about you just created a shell for every course?
We're considering doing that.
Okay.
We're not doing that yet.
Which includes?
All the face-to-face courses and all the online ones.
Fix the enrollment piece.
So every instructor would automatically have their own Canvas shell.
And they can use some of the features
And
that,
they could use,
Yeah.
they could maybe just put files on there.
right.
Or they could just use the gradebook. Or
Yeah,
they could do
right.
nothing. Or they could do a whole course.
Well, before too many people have to go, I know folks will have to run off to meetings too. I want to thank Dale for coming over today.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.